For the families of over 40 Indian migrant workers, the date 13 June will always be a day marred with tragedy as they woke up to the news of the deaths of their beloved in a tragic building fire in Kuwait. A total of 49 deaths have been reported and at least 50 people have been injured. Amongst the people who died, there are 45 Indians that have been killed. Minister of State of External Affairs Ministry went to Kuwait and ensured that the mortal remains were brought back to India early today. Most of the people who died in this tragic accident aged between 20 and 50. The mortal remains of the migrant workers have been brought back to India today. Emotional scenes unfolded at the Cochin Airport today as the family members of the deceased gathered to collect the coffins of their loved ones. But who were these migrants who lost their lives in Kuwait? We take a look at the stories of some of these workers.
Angad Gupta, a 45-year-old resident of Gorakhpur, died in the Kuwait fire. Angad worked as a cashier in a mall in Mangaf and had been living in Kuwait for 8 years. Angad last spoke to his wife Rita and their 3 children on June 11th, one day before the tragic fire. Angad is survived by 3 children, 22-year-old Anshika, who has completed her BSc, Ashutosh, who is currently pursuing BSc, and 9-year-old Sumit. Angad's wife told us that he had abruptly changed his job along with the workers.
कुवैत गए थे और मेरा नाम रीता देवी है। 8 साल से वो वहीं पे रह रहे थे, मतलब आते थे जाते थे। क्या करते थे? वो मॉल में रहते थे, बिलिंग वाला काम करते थे मॉल में। कैसा काम चल रहा था उसके बाद? कब आए थे, क्या पहले जो उस कंपनी में थे वहाँ अच्छा काम चल रहा था। फिर जब 10-15 दिन हुआ दूसरे मॉल में आए हैं, मतलब वहाँ से सारे वर्कर को निकाल दिया गया था, तो वो लोग दूसरे मॉल में आए, ज्वाइनिंग किए थे। 15 दिन हुआ अभी, तो वहाँ इतना ज़्यादा काम था। 2 शिफ्ट में था, एक 10:30 बजे से 4:30 बजे से तो ड्यूटी लगा था, फिर थोड़ा सा रेस्ट मिलता था, फिर 10:30 बजे से 12 बजे 12:30 बजे ड्यूटी करते थे।
इसके पहले वो नवंबर में जब आए थे तो कितने दिनों तक रुके थे और क्या आपसे बात हुई थी उस दौरान, क्या कह रहे थे?
कुछ नहीं कह रहे थे, बच्चों को घुमा रहे थे, मतलब कुछ कर नहीं रहे थे, बस बच्चों के साथ अपना टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे थे, मतलब बिता रहे थे।
Angad last met his family in November 2023, where he came to Gorakhpur and spent time with the family.
"45 Indians died in the Kuwait blaze. Among them was Praveen Madhav Singh, a 36-year-old engineer who had a family in Varanasi. Praveen Singh is from Kharia village in Uttar Pradesh. 2 years ago, Praveen and his family shifted to Varanasi, which is 2 hours away from the village. Praveen completed his B.Tech from Rourkela, after which he joined the NBTC company as a coordinator in Kuwait. He had been living in Kuwait for almost a decade now. Praveen left behind 2 daughters, Manisha, who is 8 years old, and Janvi, a 10-month-old daughter born in 2023. His daughters and wife live with his parents and brother in Varanasi. Praveen spoke to his family just 1 day before the blaze on a video call. When the family learnt about the fire, here is what they did.
जानकारी कहीं ना कहीं हमारे परिचित है वहाँ पर ऑलरेडी, उनके माध्यम से हुई थी। जानकारी हम लोग को मिली थी कि भाई घटना ऐसी घटी है। कंफर्म नहीं थे हम लोग, लेकिन बाद में कहीं ना कहीं आधिकारिक तौर पर लोगों से कंफर्मेशन मिली।
कब से कुवैत में प्रवीण माधव रहते थे?
10 साल के आसपास से रह रहे हैं वहाँ पर।
क्या करते थे वहाँ पे?
एडमिन डिपार्टमेंट में थे। बस
परिवार में और कौन कौन लोग हैं उनके
माँ
जन
हैं, पिताजी हैं, उनका खुद का परिवार है, 2 बच्चियां हैं, बस उनका छोटा एक भाई है, उनका परिवार है यहाँ पर सभी लोग।
It is tragic to know that the family last met him 2 months back when he came to Varanasi.
44-year-old Binoy Thomas is one of the Indians killed in the Kuwait fire. With a dream of building a home for his family, he moved to Kuwait just 4 days ago on a visit visa. He moved from Tiruvalla to settle in Chavakad, where his family lives in a makeshift home with a tarpaulin roof. He has left 2 children behind. When he landed in Kuwait, he had shared the details of his stay with his wife. When she heard about the fire, she suspected this could be the same building. She tried to contact him but couldn't reach out to him. She then contacted Abdul Khader, chairman of the Kerala Pravasi Welfare Board. They then contacted Norka Roots authorities and other officials, and that's how the family got to know about Binoy's tragic death.
There have been 45 Indians. Their bodies have been brought back to India. Most of them are belonging to Tamil Nadu and Kerala. This is their story, how they died because of the inhuman conditions that they lived in, because of the security lapses, because of the safety lapses. But the most important thing today, Pathikrit Pain, is the day where the families were able to at least get the bodies back. Now, this incident took place 2 days ago, and the state of the families, the wives, the parents, the children, can only be palpable at this time. We can only imagine the kind of stress, the kind of pain and the anguish they must have been going through in the last couple of days, when we did not even know who these individuals were. Their identities were still not disclosed. Most of the bodies were charred, so any way of identifying these bodies was difficult.
Megha, it is no doubt an extremely tragic incident, because any time when somebody goes abroad to work, leaving the family behind, that itself is always a challenging issue. And then to hear something as tormenting as this, for many of the families, the uncertainty of future, the trauma of never being able to see the beloved once again, these are difficult times for them, and our condolences and prayers for all of them. But the larger issue is this: on one hand, we can look at it as a normal, not a normal, but a fire incident or an accident which can happen anywhere, and such incidents happen here as well. However, there is another issue. The issue is this: that the saga of mistreatment, ill treatment, inhuman working conditions, and the kind of places where they are forced to stay, the saga of the manner in which laborers from countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and other Southeast Asian countries, the manner in which they're treated in many of these Middle Eastern countries, that issue cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
That is the larger
issue.
I
wanted to have this conversation in the latter half of the hour. My focus, and of course we are going to talk about the inhuman conditions that these men were living in. There were 195 of them squeezed in that building, the 6-story building, every single room having 10 to 12 people, and they've been living there for months and years together, and that's just completely unfortunate. There has to be a complete overhaul and the safety provisions, the safety aspect of how these expats who travel from various different countries, including in India and Pakistan, you rightly mentioned, but the focus I want to bring right now in this half an hour of a discussion, and Major General Sudhakar ji, if you could shed light into this, that yes, now the fire that took place the bodies that have been brought back, thankfully all the 45 Indians that died in the accident, the bodies have been brought back, the families have been handed over the bodies. The difficult task that the government of India, Ministry of External Affairs had was to negotiate with the Kuwaiti government, and that has been done. And finally, at a very fast-paced, proactive way, the way the government has reacted to this is something that was the need of the hour, and it has thankfully been done as well.
Megha, good evening. Thank you for getting me to your show. No doubt that this particular tragic incident or accident perhaps has taken place for the first time in my experience in the independent India. Perhaps for the first time, such a large number of Indians have actually been charred beyond recognition and died in an overseas location. I have been in that area. I have been a presidential kind of leadership in one of the multinationals. The reaction and the response which you are alluding to, I haven't seen in my lifetime the leadership, the deep involvement of the leadership, which was in camera, of course, and finally subsequently came in the media, that minute-to-minute progress and details were being sought by none other than the Honorable Prime Minister, the Minister of External Affairs, and the Foreign Secretary themselves. They were briefing him from time to time. And with this kind of involvement of the top leadership at the national level or the strategic level, the response has been the fastest that one could actually expect. So kudos to the government. But having said that, there is actually much more we need to do as a nation. Every candidate, every individual who leaves the nation for serving overseas also it's an integral part and asset to the nation, because it is their forex which is coming in and building the forex reserve. And it's a assured kind of a remittance which is coming. I think if they are doing so much for the nation building, despite being outside the country, I think the country needs to identify the correct problem. The correct problem, Megha, if you allow me in just about a minute or two, is actually it is threefold as per my understanding. One, some part of the role has to be played by the nation which is providing these workers and based on the wages available. When these workers leave our mainland for overseas destination, they are taken by a couple of them. These are registered companies. These companies, they hire the workers from different places in the country, depending on the qualification required and the experience required at the end user location. So after they go, they are supposed to be responsible to put them up in a housing location, which generally, whichever company they work, if they are in large number, that company is supposed to be responsible to provide accommodation. Whenever they select a suitable location for accommodation, the company where they are working, they have some integral mechanism in GCC countries. I have been in Oman myself. Oman is very stringent. They do not allow if fire precautions, safeties, norms are not adhered to. They will not allow if 6 people are supposed to stay in a room in the bunk beds, only 6 will come. They have surprise checks in the middle of the night. I really can't say about Kuwait. Most probably, to save little more money, these people have doubled up, disregarding all the safety measures. Okay. So therefore, our country also has a role to play as to where they go, depending on the visa and the place of work. Okay. Where do they go and stay? Okay. What is the living condition?
Yeah, and I'll come to it. Like I said, I'll come to it. I'll come to it in the latter half of the discussion that I'm going to have with all of you gentlemen. I have with me Pinak Rajan Chakravarti, former Foreign Secretary. And sir, just to try to understand, what sort of an effort does it require to fulfill the task at hand when a tragedy has struck? There are so many Indians that have died. There are family left behind in India who are waiting anxiously to get some news or perhaps a hope that lingers that maybe their family member is alive. Maybe the person is not dead. Maybe he is injured. Maybe he is recovering. And then you have to have this task of taking your Indian Armed Forces, the Indian Air Force aircraft to bring these bodies back. So it's a task, it's coordination, it also has to be cooperation between the two countries, and the bilateral ties also become a significant point of reference.
Well, to begin with, my name is Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, and I was not Foreign Secretary. I was Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs.
Okay, all right, sir.
I have worked in West Asia. I have seen how the working class people are treated. But that was many years ago. I have visited labor camps to see in their conditions and reported on them. And so this problem is not a new one, that putting up the working people, particularly foreigners, in buildings which are sometimes unsafe. Although this, I believe, was an accident, but I think safety precautions were ignored. I read somewhere that when the people tried to rush out, they didn't have a fire escape. They couldn't go on to the roof because the roof doors were locked. Anyway, so all those things will come out in the investigation. The fact is that this is a tragedy, not for the first time. I think we've had tragedies of our people dying abroad in air crashes, for example. Then other smaller incidents I have seen in Saudi Arabia when I was serving, Indians dying in road accidents and various other incidents, natural deaths as well. And we used to rush to these people and help them either to send the body back. Some people preferred to bury them there. So these kind of things are dealt with by the embassy and the consulate.
Okay.
But I dare say that the cooperation of the host government, in this case Kuwait, becomes very necessary in terms of. But as we know that sometimes the regulations are there, but the government is lax, or the governance system is not very rigid or strict to enforce them. It happens in India, for example. We've had in Delhi the recent hospital fire. I mean, now we realize that nobody checked whether there was a fire escape. So accidents will happen. It's a tragedy, no doubt. And the government has done whatever it can to bring back the bodies to their families. The families, of course, will be affected. Compensation, I believe, has been announced.
Yeah.
But what to do? This is all part of our development. The fact that people need jobs abroad is something. If there were jobs in India and we were a highly developed country, I don't think our people would be flocking abroad for these jobs.
Okay. There are various aspects of looking at this tragedy that has happened, and if there can be some actionables and there can be correctives that can be done. But particularly over here, talking about, unfortunate politicization of this issue has also happened. And it's shameful that it happens on such a tragic note, where you have the Kerala government accusing the central government, why have their ministers not been allowed to go to Kuwait? And it is unnecessary, but why do you think this happens?
No, but what would the Kerala minister have done by going there? The government of India had done the best possible thing by bringing all the bodies back. I mean, this is the unfortunate kind of politics which only is going to go up in the next 2-3 years, especially because the opposition now feels that now they have the numbers in the parliament. So for every small thing, it will be amplified, and for every issue, they will try to blame. Thank God they're not blaming government of India for the fire that happened in Kuwait. So that is not the issue. The issue is, since majority of the people who died, unfortunately, are from Kerala, will the Kerala government make a statement against the Kuwaiti government and ask accountability? That's not going to happen. I don't think the Kerala government will make any statement against the Kuwait and say that we want better accountability, we want better regulations, we want better checks and balances, we want prosecution of those who are responsible for this. That's not going to happen, and that in any case doesn't happen. I mean, tell me which of the Middle Eastern countries, with highest respect for the Ministry of External Affairs, with the highest respect for Government of India, with the highest respect for the relation we have with the Middle Eastern countries, tell me which of these countries, the ambassador there have ever stated that this is not done. The tragedy is it's going to happen again. That's the bigger tragedy.
Yeah.
And accountability, the problem is not laxity because the government is overburdened. It's not like that. It is that very simple. If it is in Kuwait or Qatar, if it is a citizen of that particular country owning the company, nothing will be done. That's it. In Qatar, 6,500 migrant workers died while constructing the World Cup stadiums for the FIFA World Cup. Nobody did anything. None of the FIFA organizations did. Neither United Nations did anything. And of all these 6,500 migrant workers, for majority from India, for Bangladesh, for Pakistan, for Nepal, for Sri Lanka, which of the governments said anything to Qatar that we seek accountability from you? The World Cup went on. Everybody were happy because the World Cup was going on.
Yeah.
So let's understand. But just give me 10 seconds, Megha. The tragedy, as I stated, it is a reality. We have good relation with the Middle Eastern countries. It is a reality. They are strategic partners in energy security. It is a reality. They give the highest record and respect to our government. But it is also a reality that they treat the laborers as dispensable commodities. This is also a reality which we have to accept, and we do something, or else we say that we are incapable of doing. That is one thing.
General Sudhakar ji, how do we, does India find itself in a fix? Are we so, are our hand tied to do anything about this? Also, do poor lives don't matter at all, whether it is in India or in Kuwait or in Qatar?
No, Megha, that is what I was alluding to in the last question that you had asked me, and partly they have been answered by our very eminent panelist, the ambassador and Patikrit. You see, there is a role and responsibility which government of India has to play. I have been in Middle East. Patikrit has actually spoken his heart out the way the Indians or the migrant workers are treated. So without going too much into the semantics, I would say a lot of effort has to go in from multiple stakeholders. One of the stakeholders, the nation which is providing the workers. And the kind of negotiations one has to do at appropriate level. At the moment, there are no mechanisms existing. It is a private company which is hiring the workers, taking them to the Middle East, putting them up in a house, and depending on the demand, they negotiate for stay and living in a particular accommodation. So there is no accountability, there is no sense of discipline, there is no sense of hygiene and sanitation. So therefore, what I'm saying is that the enforcement agencies all over Middle East are not working on an equal and a kind of a common parameter. The different countries have different rules. And the case in instant is that I'm given to understand as per the open media that here is a company which had actually taken the people, it was working for the same company. The company per se was responsible for the living standards and the quality of life they were expected to maintain. So therefore the accountability issue which Patikrit is bringing out is very, very paramount.
Yeah. Okay.
Has to be established between government of India and Kuwait government.
Okay.
Back to you.
Mr. Chakravarti, then when we are seeking accountability from these host nations, is there accountability and responsibility on the part of the government of India as well?
Government of India did not send these people. Hence, the government of India's responsibility is there to the extent that government of India regulates the recruitment agents and the recruitment agencies and makes sure that proper contracts are signed legally and the amount of salary to be paid is reasonable and that certain living conditions, etc., are to be followed. That is government of India because it is within the jurisdiction of our nation. Once the person is in a foreign country, that person comes under the jurisdiction of that foreign country. So the foreign country's laws, etc., are applied. Some countries have good laws and they enforce it properly. Some are more lax. Their enforcement agencies, turn a blind eye because many of these big, large companies are powerful. Does it not happen in other countries that there is an excess between the politicians and the leading businessmen? So I think those factors are there. To the extent what our embassy does is to go and inspect. If they get some information, they go and check. They go and talk to these people. I remember in Saudi Arabia, we used to have an officer who was designated as First Secretary Labor. He was called First Secretary Labor because his job was to monitor these things. But how much can you monitor? There are 8 million or more Indian workers in the Gulf countries. Now, our embassies are not large establishments. They are very small establishments. And we try to do as much as we can, but generally react to the messages that are received of, some problems, etc., then the officials go and see and try to sort out those problems.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast. But on the other side, we're going to take a deeper look at the percentage of Indians across the globe who go out and work and bring remittances to our country, and also the kind of situations they find themselves in terms of housing, in terms of their living conditions, and can there be any correctives and proactive measures taken by the Government of India and also by the host countries to ensure that such tragedies don't happen?
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.